Hi, I'm Sid Ropp. I'm the author of A Simple Explanation of Absolutely Everything, and I am reading to you from the original edition of the book, if you have it. And we're now on page 3, which introduces the idea of fractals. And I'm going to come back later today after I go to the grocery store and buy some broccoli to illustrate fractals to you. Meanwhile, let's just read from it and see what we can understand. So there is a diagram on the top of the page called the shape of God's mind, and it's that, torus that we've been looking at. It's called the shape of God's mind, the womb of creation, the Son of God, the Word, the mother of 10,000 things, known here in the simple explanation as the universal unit of consciousness, and the universal fractal formula, or the universal algorithm. We can imagine this wireframe version of the torus as the idealized universal blueprint immediately prior to the creation of this universe. So this was the imagination of God, so to speak. Here it is in 3D form, which I discovered that if you take a slinky and you pull it around into a donut shape, and I used a zip tie to stick it together, here we have the torus we keep seeing illustrated. Isn't that pretty? So this is a torus. It's a basic geometrical shape, like a cube is a shape or a sphere is a shape. This is another three-dimensional shape called a torus. You probably know it as a donut. And the torus can come with a very tiny hole in the middle or with a really big hole in the middle like a bicycle tire. This slinky makes a kind of a nice wireframe torus to use as a model. So I'm suggesting on page 2 that when the metaverse had a concept of this universe, it quickly threw up this fractal shape, which is the shape of all explosion and blurps, around the concept so as to keep the metaverse unperturbed, unsullied. So this is the shape of our universe, floating inside the metaverse, okay? Back to page 3. Which begs the question, how is it possible for an object, that is our universe, to rest inside the formless metaverse without affecting its undifferentiated nature? Undifferentiated means sameness. To differentiate something means to break it out of something else. So undifferentiated means it's all the same. How can space and non-dimensionality, time and timelessness, change and changelessness coexist without touching the metaverse? This paradox is easily solved by imagining that the toroidal membrane possesses a fractal surface, and on page 3 I liken it to the Koch Snowflake, and we'll post on the blog another picture of the Koch Snowflake, but you can go look at it's a very famous fractal pattern. And here's what it looks like on page 3. Let's see. So you start with the triangle, and then if you divide each side of the triangle the same way, with the exact same triangle, it becomes this, which we call a Star of David. And if you divide each of its surfaces in the exact same way, it becomes this kind of snowflake. And you just keep dividing it. You can divide it endlessly, infinitely. And it will never change its basic size. It just keeps dividing along the edge infinitely. So you see that the area of the triangle and the area of this Koch snowflake are the same. This can divide infinitely and make an infinite size perimeter or edge, but the inside stays the same. It's kind of magic. So, as you can see by the illustration of the Koch snowflake, countless divisions, the perimeter of the figure becomes infinitely complex and long, while the interior of the two-dimensional Koch snowflake remains finite and contained within the figure, never reaching the outside. Now imagine applying a fractal service like this infinitely dividing Koch snowflake on the inside of our universal torus. That is the mind of God, so to speak. Inside, it's dividing infinitely, but nothing inside ever reaches the outside. That is, to borrow Las Vegas's phrase, what happens in our universe stays in our universe. So that's a pretty good introduction to fractals, but I'll illustrate with a broccoli in a minute. That's it for page 3.